Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be, and of course, however you may be listening. The Iowa men's basketball team just dropped their second game in a row, and I haven't talked about Iowa basketball thus far this year, but it is definitely time to resume it. I In lieu of the football season being done, I recently made a post that the implication behind it was that the Iowa men's basketball team was not in trouble, that a lot of their losses were understandable. Four of their losses have come to top 25, specifically at the time, top 21 KenPom teams. They just lost to a below 500 Michigan team. Now, Michigan being below 500 is not the end all be all. Michigan has a lot of talent. They always do, especially under Juwan Howard. Just because they're 4-5 doesn't mean that they're not going to pick it up and be a formidable team this year. I think it is time to slightly panic for this men's basketball team. Um, there was hope. When Iowa played Creighton, how they performed, I thought that they played really well, given how, the type of team Creighton is. Iowa lost, I wasn't too worried about their loss to them. Then they lost to Oklahoma. And, I was a little bit concerned, but they bounced back and they beat Seton Hall fairly easily. I mean, it wasn't a butt whooping, but it was still from beginning to end victory for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Most recently, they got smashed by Iowa State. Iowa State exposed them. Iowa State made all of Iowa's shots tough. They made Iowa earn it on the offensive end. They limited Ben Krikke, so on and so forth. And, Iowa State, in the matchup of a really good defensive team in Iowa State versus a pretty good offensive team in Iowa, they won that matchup. They made it hard for Iowa to have a free-flowing offense. Of course, it's not easy to win at the Hilton Coliseum, but Iowa State, give credit to them. They had a great game plan, and they absolutely torched the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now Iowa lost by 10 points to Michigan. It is definitely time to slightly hit the panic button. If Iowa does not find some answers soon, this season will be over before it started. And this is really the time that a season can go either direction, especially if you're uh, especially if you're in a season that is somewhat of a rebuild. But here are the issues currently with this Iowa men's basketball team. Okay. Number one, the defense still is bad. And I really did have hope that this team would be better defensively. I thought they had the athletes, they had the length. The one thing that Iowa is missing, that they've missed for the last couple of years, but have been able to make up for it with Keegan and Chris Murray in how dominant a players they are. Because yes, in basketball, one player can definitely carry a team just by their sheer presence, both offensively and defensively in all facets of the game. Football, not as much. Sure, the quarterback can dictate the game, but it's hard for a single player in football to win a game. But this Iowa men's basketball team, guys, is they Ben Krikke is Iowa's leading scorer. But here, let me pull up the stats here for the game and just the stats of the Iowa men's basketball team. Let's see. Ben Krikke is Iowa's leading scorer, but the thing with Ben is he's not as dominant a scorer as Keegan, Luka, or Chris. He's a good scorer. He's a good offense player. But there's a difference between a good scorer and a dominant scorer who can literally take over games, control games, and get W's for you. Ben is not that guy. Okay. He took some bad shots today. This game is not on him. The loss is not on him. But, you know, and the other issue with Ben is sure, he gives you some stuff offensively, but what he gets on the offensive end, he equally gives up on the defensive end. And that's kind of been it's a similar situation with Luka Garza when Iowa had him, but I don't think it was as bad. I think Luka Garza played really hard. Ben plays really hard too, but Luka Garza was 6'11", and Luka Garza was so dominant offensively that the issues defensively were made up for. But, he still had 24 points, guys. So I don't want to go in too hard on Ben. He's still a good player. I just don't think he's as dominant a scorer. This is not a critique, okay? I'm trying to articulate this correctly. This is not a critique of him. It's more explaining why Iowa is in the situation that they're in. I'm merely saying that Iowa can no longer expect one guy to carry the team. While Ben is a good scorer, he's not going to carry this team to victories multiple times a season. But he still did have 24 points in 35 minutes, 8 rebounds. Patrick McCaffrey had a slight bounce back game, 10 points. Owen Freeman entered the starting lineup for the first time this year. In my season preview, I said that Owen Freeman might be a starter for this team. They had Josh Dixon as a starter against Iowa State. He had tons of issues. Dasonte Bowen is no longer starting for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And in fact, he has lost significant minutes the last 2 games. And I know I've read reports that there's stuff that's going on off the court, but the game is still the game, guys. Regardless of if there's stuff going on off the court, the results are still the results. This is a tough situation, guys, and most of Iowa's issues, I would say, come defensively. They cannot stop anybody, and this is just a common issue with the Iowa Hawkeyes. It just is, and maybe I'm not saying that the season is over. I'm not saying that, but perhaps this will be a good thing to happen to the Iowa Hawkeyes to have a down year in hopes, and again, even this is very, very not, it's not it's not a high percentage. It's not a high chance because it's the same thing with Kirk Ferentz. A down year you would hope that it would change the philosophy, but people are who they are and they fall back on their natural tendencies. So, in theory, if Iowa had a down year, Fran McCaffrey would figure out that they have to play defense because the last few years, yes, they've had to play defense, but they've also won a ton of games due to their offense. I don't want to overreact too much to this game because, like I said, who knows? Maybe Michigan may end up being a really good team, and then we look back at this game and Iowa lost to a really good team. Owen Freeman, 5 points. Tony Perkins, 19 points in 31 minutes. That's more of what I expected from Tony Perkins. He was kind of he wasn't having a bad start to the year, and yes, he did lose his grandmother, but I thought that Tony Perkins might be the guy for the Iowa Hawkeyes this year, and thus far that hasn't been the case. I lean towards it being Ben Krikke, but it was certainly a possibility to be Tony Perkins. Tony Perkins needs to take a step forth if Iowa has any chance in salvaging this year. It needs to be Ben and Tony. Ben and Tony. The thing with Peyton Sandfort is because the main way he scores points is through 3-point shots, and because he's still such a young player, the consistency is not going to be there. Okay. Uh, he is still not developed enough as a scorer to find easy ways to put the ball in the hoop if his shot is not falling. So, as good of a 3-point shooter as Peyton is, we've kind of seen this story before with Peyton. He's hot and then he's cold. He's really, really hot and then he goes on streaks where he's cold. But that is the life of a shooter. Very few shooters are like Steph Curry, where they're a consistent 40% 3-point shooter from NBA range. Okay. Um, this is to be expected. Peyton, and I was hoping that this was going to be the case this year, was going to develop the next step in his offensive game in finding other ways to score and generate easy points other than his 3-point shooting. That is the mark of a good scorer. A good scorer is able to find ways to put the ball in the hoop when their top asset is not falling for them. MJ, his mid-range shot. He finds, MJ, if his mid-range shot was not hitting, even though that was rare, he'd still find a way to score 20 plus points because he knows how to get the ball in the hoop. That is the sign of a good scorer. Finding ways to score the ball even when your top skill or your top offensive weapon is not falling. You need to have, as the kids say, multiple tools in your tool bag. Okay. Josh Dix, 2 points, not good. Brock Harding, 6 points, but he had a few turnovers, 0 assists. I was glad to see Evan Bronze got some minutes. He had 2 points. Guys, I don't have any easy solution here. It's really the defensive side of things that is the issue for Iowa. Let's look at the team stats. Iowa shot 43%, Michigan shot 48. Iowa was 5 of 20 from 3, only 25%. Because the truth is, outside of Peyton Sandfort and Josh Dix, Iowa doesn't really have any good shooters. Yeah, can Patrick McCaffrey hit a few here and there? Sure, but he's not a shooter. Never has been. Um, that's really all they have. Tony Perkins is not an excellent 3-point shooter. Brock Harding is still very young. And Josh Dix doesn't really look for his shot. He's a good shooter, but he doesn't. The attempts aren't there. So it's really Peyton Sandfort. Iowa lives and dies by Peyton Sandfort shooting when it comes to their 3-point percentage. Iowa shot 19-25 from the free throw line. Not bad. Michigan shot 3 more attempts at 28. Total rebounds 41-32. Iowa got out rebounded significantly. 17 assists to 16 assists, 6 blocks to 3 blocks. Steals, Iowa had 9 compared to Michigan's 5. Iowa had 10 turnovers compared to Michigan's 13. So, listen, guys, I don't have any easy solutions here, but Iowa's got to figure it out fast because this season is well on its way. And, the good news is they have Florida A&M and UMBC, but the bad news is Iowa is 0-2 in the Big Ten play. To tell you the truth, the past few years, Iowa has played Purdue early in the year. They've kind of had that similar schedule, but they have never really done well in the early Big Ten games, to tell you the truth. Not lately. And we know how those years have ended. They've ended pretty positively. But actually, this is Iowa's 3rd loss in a row. They lost to Purdue 87-68, Iowa State 90-65, and Michigan 90-80. Look at how many points are being scored on Iowa. 87, 90, and 90. It's just not going to get the job done, guys. It's just not. So, the good news is Iowa has 3 cupcakes coming up, and there's still a lot of games to be played, and it's not the biggest hole in the world. But they got to get this sorted out, guys. They got to get it sorted out fast. They play Florida A&M next Saturday, so they have a lot of time to work on things. Let's look at KenPom real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. Um, See, Iowa, look at this. Iowa lost to Purdue, third, Creighton 6, Iowa State 18, looks and Oklahoma 19. And then let's see where Michigan is at. And Michigan is 42nd. And their defense is pretty bad too. 122. Iowa has dropped all the way down to 58th because both their offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency has gone down the last couple of games. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully, the season can come back. I'm going to add some more videos, obviously, as time goes on, but the Iowa Hawkeyes lose 90-80. I'll provide some more analysis and hopefully come up with some answers on what Iowa can do. But this has been a tough stretch for the Iowa Hawkeyes. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy. Well, on facts or feelings, because your feelings just matter. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye.